Thank you.
I don't think you'd ever get sick of that,
Thank
right?
you. This is so great. Nice place. Beautiful theater.
So you had been Real Clear Politics average. You were down 6.5%, but a poll just came out earlier tonight that has you up by 10 in this state. Is that possible? Change?
Yeah, a very good poll, a good company. Let's see what happens. I mean, the only poll that matters is tomorrow, right?
That's true.
So we'll see. Thank you.
Because I never get a chance to talk to Melania, I'm going to start with Melania. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us here in Wisconsin.
Of course, it's great to be here.
You didn't want Donald to run.
Well, when we discussed and he asked me, I said, you know, we have a great life, because I know life changes after you know, all that's going on. And
it's changed a lot, right?
It changed a lot, and, you know, he's not home much and with me or with my son, so it's changed. That's why I said, but I know what he could do for the America, so.
But that's what you said. It's tough on the families. In fair, I mean, when they run a super PAC ad attacking you, is that painful?
I have a tough skin. I think it's not fair that they're attacking family, wife, or children.
Yeah.
It's unfair.
Yeah. All right. Now, my wife gives me great advice in my life, right, guys? We know what that's like. We get our best advice from our wife. You have said you want Donald to be more presidential sometimes. Explain that.
Well, sometimes I feel that, you know, the retweets sometimes get him in trouble. So just, I said, stay away from, you know, stay away from retweets. And
He does say that.
And, you know, if he would only listen, you know, I could nag every day and every time, but, you know, he's doing great.
Is there a side of him that maybe you think the public doesn't know that you would want them to know about him?
I think he's very kind. He has a great heart. He would not harm anybody. He would not harm women or men. He's really a great, great guy. You know, beautiful heart, and he loves to help people. By
all accounts, you had a pretty tough week. You actually said something in interviews with both Maureen Dowd and Bob Woodward that a lot of people were hoping you would do at some point, and you said, you know what, I think I shouldn't have sent that tweet out about Heidi Cruz.
Well, I think I really said, hey, I could have done without it, and it's true, and I wish I didn't send it out. It would have been simpler. It was done as a little bit of retaliation, but in the end, it's so, you know, it's just something, if I had it to do again, I would not have done it.
Yeah. What, you know, you just had your 8th grandchild. This whole issue, when you were on with Chris Matthews, I was watching the interview. He never shuts up. It's just so annoying. Sorry, it's true. And I was watching the interview, and he's grilling you and pushing a hypothetical question on abortion. That became a problem for a few days. And I just thought I'd give you an opportunity, in your own words, to talk about abortion. Ted Cruz took the position today. He doesn't make exceptions for rape, incest, or the mother's life.
Right.
Is there a difference in your position?
There you go, lying Ted. Lying Ted. You don't know what, because he lies. Lion Ted. L-Y-I-N apostrophe, right? Lion Ted.
And how does
so look,
go? Okay.
I will say this. You know I'm pro-life, okay?
Yes.
And with the exceptions, but I am pro-life. I did the show because it's not a high-rated show. He's always been, I mean, he has never treated me very badly. And frankly, he asked
treats
the
you
question,
badly when you're not there.
Well, perhaps. I mean, but he's always been, you know, fine.
So he's a phone.
And I didn't think it was a big thing to do the show, and it was a hypothetical question. And as a hypothetical question, you give a hypothetical answer. And I didn't see the big, huge deal. And I will tell you this, Sean, and I'll say it, and we can, you know, have this out. But so many people called me up, and they thought that was a very strong answer and a very good. Pastor Jeffress, who's a fantastic guy who's been on your show.
Many times.
A great man.
But the reality is it's not the law.
Well, he said, but as a hypothetical question, that was a hypothetical answer that was not a wrong answer. And there were other people that wrote me letters, and I mean, by the hundreds, saying that was a great answer to that question, the way it was phrased.
Do you make exceptions? Because it's a very sensitive issue. It's a very personal issue. I know that my position of making exceptions for rape, incest in the mother's life are inconsistent a little bit with my belief that life begins at conception. Okay, do you make those exceptions?
Well, I do. I mean, I come with the 3 exceptions, and I think it's very important. But I will say that, I mean, to me, it's very important. I will say I watched Kasich being interviewed on a channel. I won't even say it. It didn't happen to be yours. They were talking about abortion, and he gave such a bad answer. It was so bad that at the end he said, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it. If I ever did that, if I ever gave that answer, it would have been 10 times bigger headlines. And I said, I wonder, he's going to get killed. And I'm saying to myself, he's going to get killed for that answer. Nobody ever said anything. Nobody ever talks about it.
He doesn't have a chance to win.
Well, whatever. Nobody cares. I mean, it's like crazy. Crazy.
I want to ask this audience, because it became such a distraction. I watched the videotape at least 150 times. Did anybody see anything that looked like an assault? If you do, just... I didn't see it. The easier thing would have been to fire your campaign manager, make that problem go away. And you were asked a lot about that over the weekend. You wouldn't do it. Why?
Amazing the way he shifted to that topic. I mean, it was... He went from it to assault, and I said, wait a minute, and he's talking about, look, I have a campaign manager who's he's a very good campaign manager, doing a great job, and all of this stuff. I mean, look, hopefully I can say he has an okay candidate, right? He has an okay candidate, but he is, I mean, we're number 1 by a lot. We're leading by millions of votes. Nobody ever talks about the votes. By millions and millions of votes over Cruz and over Kasich. Nobody ever talks about that. And we're also leading by, we just won Missouri. Missouri just came in. But we're leading by close to 300 delegates. So we're leading by a lot. Corey is, forget about campaign manager. He's doing great. But Corey is a fine person. He's a good person. He's got 4 beautiful children. He's got a wife who's a terrific woman. He lives in New Hampshire, where I have a warm spot, because that was my first victory. I mean, I love New Hampshire, right? So I have a warm spot. So I read the statement made by this person who I didn't know, Michelle Fields. She's a reporter. And you have to find out, did she quit or did she get fired? Because, I heard a story about what happened, that they were pretty tough on her because they didn't necessarily believe it. I'm not saying you're going to have to ask them. I'm sure they'll eventually have to talk about it. But when I saw the tape, I saw her statement that she was practically thrown to the ground. I said, that's terrible. And I would have fired him on the spot if that actually took place. Then I have very good security in my places. So I have beautiful security cameras all over not for this.
Thanks for the heads up.
Right,
yeah, okay.
I know. But by the way, not for this, but it's the thing.
Whatever reason.
So I have these great security cameras. I said, do me a favor, check those cameras. Maybe there's something. So I read her statement that she was thrown to the ground, or almost thrown to the ground, and grabbed. Now I see her in the tape, right? First of all, she grabbed me or touched me or whatever, but she grabbed. And you see me looking and like this, right? Number one, she wasn't supposed to be there because we had just finished a press conference. But here's the thing. I saw Corey, and on your show, on various shows, they've had criminal defense lawyers. Everybody says, what did he do? He didn't do anything. How can I fire a man and ruin a man's life? And most of you have seen the tape. I mean, if anything, I'll tell you, if anything, and I say this, and the easiest thing would have been, it's so sad, if I would have fired him, it would have been so much easier. This would be, I can't do that. I'm loyal to people. I'm loyal to the country. I'll be loyal to the people of the country. I mean, when I saw, and you know what I'm talking about, because I've seen a lot of different shows, not even yours too, but I've seen a lot of different shows where they have lawyers on, and they're showing the tape. And virtually every single one of them said, what did he do? It was almost that he was running interference. Number one, she wasn't supposed to be there. She cut in front of Secret Service.
The press conference was over.
It was over, and it was a long press conference.
And he just put the hand out, no more questions.
And she wasn't supposed to be asking me, so that's not a big deal. She's thrown. She shouldn't have been there. That's a certain space that you have with Secret Service, not supposed to be there. And if you look at him, he basically ran interference. I mean, it's not like, now, do I destroy a man's life? Because, you know, if I fired him, that would be the destruction of his life professionally, in my opinion. Do I do that? Then I guess she reported him to the police department. And, I mean, he's got charges for what? And people are looking. She grabbed me. She touched me. I look down. You can see I'm pulling my arm, you know, as they run it slowly. She's not supposed to be there. Now, maybe I should file charges against her for grabbing me or touching me. You know, maybe I should file charges. So I think it's...
You have now been...
By the way, Jupiter, Florida is a great place. I respect it
but it was a
so
Hillary
much.
prosecution.
But I want to tell you, I want to tell you, I think it's a real black eye to justice and to criminal justice when somebody gets in trouble
for nothing.
And I only say, thank goodness we had that tape. Because I can imagine, you know, when she saw that tape, all of a sudden the story sort of changed a little bit. It wasn't... Remember, you have to look at her first statement. Pulled to the ground or almost pulled to the ground. And it was like pretty vicious sounding. And then I saw the tape. So I think people should look at that. I think it's a great injustice.
Let me ask this question. You now, do you remember the day you came down Trump Towers? Melania was with you. Your family was there.
Yes.
You've been at this, what, 9 months?
Yeah,
9 months.
June 16th.
What have you learned the most about our political system, especially coming off of a hard week?
Well, what? Wait, what was that? You're so funny. Well, I've learned that our country is very poorly run. I can tell you that. No, I've learned there's great, and I have to say this, and you're a total professional, and there are others, but I've learned there's tremendous dishonesty in the media. Tremendous dishonesty. Beyond anything I've ever witnessed. Beyond anything I've ever witnessed. For instance, I talk about NATO, and I give this long study. I understand, you know, I get it. I get how it is. I said it's obsolete, and 2-3 days later, people say, wow, that was really something. I said that we're spending too much money. We're taking care of all the freeloaders. You know, we have 28 countries in there. We're taking care of a vast preponderance that they're not paying. And they're really not paying because nobody's asking them to pay, in my opinion. You know, I have an instinct for this stuff. They should pay. But it's really, you know, we need something for terrorism. That was set up, I think, 68 years ago or so for the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Russia's plenty tough. But here's the one thing. They cover my answer so inaccurately. And it's unbelievable. And every time I give a speech, I get a standing ovation on NATO and many other things. But the press takes about 3% of what I say, and they disguise it to make it look as bad as possible. So, you know, I'm very, very dishonest.
What advice throughout this campaign, Melania, have you given your husband? What would you like him to change a little bit?
Well, as we discussed before, I said, you know, tweeting and be more presidential. And he has, you know, great nights, and he can be presidential. But sometimes he cannot stand that somebody attacks him, because if somebody attacks him, he will punch back 10 times harder.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. Things are just getting started. 2016 Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, his wife Melania, they're with us for the hour. As we continue, Hannity on the road. We're in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Pabst Theater. We continue now with 2016 Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump, his wife Melania. You met with Reince Priebus. How did that meeting go? Can you tell us what you talked about?
Well, the meeting was fine. We had a short meeting, probably half an hour, and he was there with his staff, and he's a really nice guy. I've always gotten along, but I just said I want to be treated fairly. I mean, I'm getting far more votes than anybody. In Louisiana, I won the state, and I find out I have less delegates than a guy that I beat quite easily. And it's unfair. You know, you say, what's going on? Now, in all fairness, we're way ahead in delegates, but why would somebody that loses have more delegates? They say, well, there's this way and this. And I say, wait a minute, I don't care about ways. I won the state. I'm not supposed to have less delegates than a guy I beat. It doesn't work that way.
Let me ask this question. John Boehner said he hopes that they would pick Paul Ryan. They can nominate anybody at a contested convention. John Kasich's whole strategy now, he says it'll be a great educational opportunity. He can't get to 1237. The only way he can win is to leapfrog over you and Ted Cruz. Scott Walker, in a private meeting with a friend of ours, said last week he wants Paul Ryan. We know that Mitt Romney's strategy, Paul Rove has said it. There's a local radio guy who's not on my station, Charlie Sykes, has said he wants to jump over the winner. So my question to you...
Stop with the names, we'll go over. Okay. First of all, Romney lost so badly. It was one of the great defeats in the history of presidential politics. And for this guy to be talking, and he knows how I felt, and I said, hey, look, he's a choke artist. He choked with President Obama, and that's not presidential to say, but I'll say it anyway. I have to say it. I always say, I want to say it until I win, then I promise I'll get presidential, okay? I drive it crazy. But Romney is nothing but a choke artist, and I don't want his endorsement. You know, if I win this, I don't need his endorsement.
But the strategy is to take this from the people that won the most votes, the most states, and got the most delegates.
And millions of people that are out there voting, and I have people, it's the biggest story in politics today. The Republican Party, I hate to say, because it's, you know, whatever, because I'm running, because they want to see America be great again, et cetera, all the things we're going to do. The Republican Party is getting millions of votes more than it did 4 years ago. Now, it's getting millions of votes more than it ever had. And in all fairness, the Republican Party never had that image. It was like sort of tired, exhausted, tired. And now all of a sudden you go to South Carolina, you go to New Hampshire, you go to different Nevada, and a woman working in Nevada said, you know what, and she said this on television, I'm watching television, she said, I've been in here for 25 years. They'd have like 3 people in this room. Now they had a line that was going back 6 blocks, 5 deep, and she said, I've never seen anything like this. And that's every single thing. So
we had
the Republicans
people that we had room for here.
Well, you look at you. I mean, you were supposed to have just a little audience, and now they have to open up all the decks.
Right.
There's something amazing happening.
So let me ask this question.
There's something.
If let's say you fall shy of 1237, and this is not a Chris Matthews hypothetical, but if you fall shy of 1237 and you get to the convention and it becomes contested and they try, you have more votes, more delegates, won more states than anybody else, and they try to take that nomination away from you, what is your answer?
Well, let me tell you what's unfair. I was always very good. We won't let them, right? Let me tell you, I was always very good. Thank you. Wow, that's very nice.
I have a question for the audience. If they tried to do what I'm describing, how many of you would want him to walk out? How many of you would not vote for whoever they picked? So they've got a big problem.
Well, we have millions. Thank you. We have millions of people. We're not talking about small. You know, like as an example, above Cruz. And in all fairness to Cruz, at least he's going through this process, and it's not an easy process. But over Ted Cruz, I have millions of additional votes. Not only delegates, but millions of additional votes. I think it's really hard to do it, but I was always very good with mathematics, okay? So here's the problem we have, and that anybody in my position would have. I won, as you saw, many states. I think I have, what, 22, 23 states. We won a lot of states, all right? More, by far, 32, much more than anybody else. Okay, so, but the problem is those first states, we had 17 people running. So you could win a state, you get 24, 25%, you'd win a state. But with all of those people, you had governors, you had people of great achievement. I mean, you have Ben Carson, who's a fantastic guy, but great achievement. He endorsed me, Ben endorsed me. And you had Chris Christie who endorsed me, but you had people of great achievement. You had governors, senators, etc., okay? And they all had 2%, 3%, 5%. We had 17 people. So it's impossible to get to that threshold in those early states. Even now, we still have Kasich. Now, here's the problem with Kasich. First of all, I happen to think he takes votes away from me more so than Cruz. But Sean, he's won for 31.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Actually,
he's won.
If you add on the contest, it's more than 31, but yeah.
No, I think it's more. It's probably 33 if you add on the islands and everything else, but he's won for 31, probably 33. And if I spent 2 days more in Ohio, I would have won that too. We did great in Ohio. I would have won Ohio. And you know why I didn't do it? Because I wanted to be sure that I won Florida. We won Florida big, but I would have won Ohio. But the point is this. So we have all these people we have all these people, and it's very hard, therefore, to get the 50% plus one when you go. Despite that, I think we're going to do it. I'll tell you what, if we can win Wisconsin, and we are doing great, we're going to do it pretty easily.
I read a recent interview, and a couple of times you used an analogy that, well, in a primary, I got to be tough, I got to break some eggs, and then I'm going to be what Melania is asking you, and Ivanka's asking you, and Eric and Don Jr. are asking you to be more presidential.
Very boring. I'll be very boring.
What does that mean? You're going to? How is that possible?
No, he'll be so he'll have Trump on, and he'll say, that was the most boring interview I've ever done. No more Trump. No, I understand. You know what Melania says, what Ivanka the same thing.
You agree with her?
I do, but I want to finish the job. You know, look. You know, in the last debate, and Drudge, who's an amazing guy, by the way, but Drudge has a poll, right? He really is. People don't know what an amazing guy, but Drudge has a poll, and Time Magazine, and all these, you know, there's like 7 or 8 of them, online polls after the debates. I've won every single poll of every single debate. In other words, who won the debates? You know that. Now, so they told me on the final debate, be presidential, don't hit back, don't... And I tried it, and I succeeded. I was so proud of myself. But
you know what the real
it was also, by the way, I did good in the poll, but it was also the most boring debate of all, you have to say.
I want to know, when we come back, I want to ask specifically how you go after Hillary. We'll talk about some policy issues, ISIS, the economy, much more as we continue. 2016, Republican frontrunner Donald Trump, his wife Melania, Hannity on the road in Milwaukee, and we will continue. Back to Hannity. We're in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Pabst Theater with 2016 Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump and his wife Melania. I have asked you this question about the economy before. 95 million Americans out of the labor force, right. 50 million in poverty, 46 million on food stamps. You know what a bad economy is, right? Yeah. And we've doubled the national debt.
Right.
And I think the question is, how do we fix this, and how fast can you do it?
Okay, we can do it fast. We have to bring our jobs back, and we have to stop jobs from leaving. Every day you read about companies, Sean, right? Every day we're reading about companies, great companies, Pfizer, great pharmaceutical companies, moving to Ireland. A lot of companies are moving to Mexico. I mean, Mexico's like China, little smaller version. We're losing so many. Oh, we're going to build a wall. Who's going to pay for the wall? We're going to build the wall, believe me. We're building the wall. You know, with Mexico, we have a trade deficit of $58 billion a year.
China's worse.
Billion. Oh, China, $505 billion. And we're going to stop all that. And we have the greatest, you know many of them, and you know they're friends of mine, and have endorsed me. Carl Icahn.
But how
we're going to get the greatest negotiators.
Is that enough to get Americans back to work?
Oh, it's going to be so good. We're losing all of our jobs, folks. We're losing so much. And what they do is the monetary manipulation. They devalue their currencies to such an extent, and they're grandmasters. And we have people in Washington, they don't even know what's happening to us. You take a look at Komatsu in Japan. They make tractors. Look what they're doing to Caterpillar. I mean, so many companies are just absolutely killing us.
You said we're headed for a massive recession.
If I'm not elected. That's right. If I'm not elected. Oh, it's still. No. So I did make the statement. I did make the statement because we're in a massive bubble. We have money that's the cheapest money we've ever had, yet nobody can borrow it unless you're very rich. I mean, if I want to borrow money, I can borrow all the money I want to borrow. But if you aren't really rich, you can't borrow money. So do you ever hear of cheap money that nobody can get? We're sitting on a bubble. The stock market is very inflated and very... Now, we have to straighten out our country. We owe $19 trillion in debt. The budget, you know, they talk about Paul Ryan. Well, I like Paul Ryan personally. No, but this omnibus budget from 3 months ago that they passed is a disaster. It gives Obama the money to bring people in from Syria. It gives him the money to bring the illegal immigrants in. It gives him money for Obamacare, which has to be repealed and replaced.
Will you put forward a balanced budget, your first budget, or will it take a couple of years?
No, but it will take fairly quickly, and it can be done.
3 years?
He likes the penny plan. And the penny plan, you know, it sounds simple. It's actually very good. And you can do more than a penny, by the way. But it will take place and it'll go relatively quickly. But what we have to start doing again, immediately, we have to make better trade deals. I'll be able to do that. That's what I do, make better trade deals. We have to make sure that these countries, you know, we protect Japan, we protect Saudi Arabia, we protect Germany, we're like the policemen to the world. We protect everybody. When they say that our military budget is many times that of any other country, of course it is. We protect everybody. So we have to renegotiate deals. I don't mind protecting countries, but we have to get paid a fair amount of money for it.
How important is it that government, for example, are there any departments you would eliminate? I like the penny plan. You cut a penny, you eliminate baseline budgeting, all important and from my perspective. Energy, I think, would create a lot of jobs, increase
it's got to be loosened up. It's got to be loosened up. You know, we take our coal, because I'm somebody that believes in clean coal. I believe in all forms of energy. I think it's fine.
All of the above?
Including the newer stuff that I use, solar, et cetera, but it's not working. It's so expensive. It's just not working. And it'll get better and better with time, but we can't rely on that. I mean, solar's wonderful and great, but, you know, there's a 32-year payback. Who wants a 32-year payback? Same thing with wind. Wind is a horrible thing in terms of vision, what it looks like. And it has a place. In certain areas, it has a place. As you know, in California, it's killing all the
Kennedy
eagles.
Compound, that's where I'd put it.
Yeah, but they don't want it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. They all want wind until you're going to put it next to their house, and then all of a sudden, it's like, we don't want the wind. But look, it all has a place. But look, coal, we have in West Virginia, in Ohio. I mean, look at what's happened to Ohio. They have clean coal now. We send our coal. You know what? We send our coal. We don't do much coal anymore. The miners are devastated. That industry is...
Do you manage the budget at home, or does Melania?
Well, we don't have too much of a budget, right? By the way, just to finish the thought, though, we send our coal to China.
Yeah.
We send our coal to China. We can't use it. We're not allowed to use it practically. It's so restrictive. But we send our coal to China. It's so sad.
Oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear?
I am totally in fact. You know, nuclear had a big setback when they had the problem in Japan. They were all set to go. But new nuclear is really and very, very inexpensive. You look at certain countries like France, not that I want to copy France,
no, 75%.
But they've got a vast majority of their energy is from nuclear.
Would you eliminate any departments?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, we want to bring education back to Wisconsin, right? So we end Common Core, and Department of Education the Department of Education is massive, and it can be largely eliminated. Now, you maybe want to have a little bit of, tentacles out there, make sure everything, but largely we can eliminate the Department of Education. Department of Environmental, the DEP is killing us environmentally. It's just killing our businesses. That can be state.
We got to take a break.
Okay.
We'll come back. We have much more with Donald Trump, his wife Melania, right after this break, as Hannity continues from the Pabst Theater. We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the road. And welcome back to Hannity. We continue now with 2016 Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, his wife Melania. All right, so the president was in Cuba doing the wave. Did the tango, and that was after he got lectured by Raul Castro. You're the president of the United States. I assume you wouldn't have been in Cuba, but something like Brussels happens. How would you have handled it differently?
Well, by the way, speaking of Cuba, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do something eventually, but we have to do a great deal as opposed to the deal we're doing. But worst, when he landed in Air Force One, and there was nobody to greet him. To me, what can you imagine? And I said, Air Force One has been around for a while. I said, that may be the first time in the history of Air Force One that the President of the United States lands in a country and there's nobody to greet him. So it's a total lack of respect. He should have left immediately. Should have left the baseball game. The wave was not a good thing, especially in light of what we're going through. But he should have left immediately and come back home to Washington, where the president belongs at a time like that.
Let me ask, Obama last week was attacking you that you don't know foreign policy. And I'm thinking, all right, this is the guy that gave $150 billion to the radical Islamic mullahs of Iran.
Who, by the way, and this is interesting, yesterday for the first time he's now saying Iran, not so happy with Iran. He's not so happy with the deal. I've been telling him that for 2 years. It's not going to work out. And you know, it's interesting. Hey, and I wrote a book in 2000. I talked about Osama bin Laden in the book 2 years before the World Trade Center got knocked down.
And Brussels.
And then I talked about Brussels recently. And the New York Times put this big story in that Donald Trump, I said, Brussels is a hellhole. Now, I know that because it's a big financial capital, and friends of mine are very much involved with Brussels, and they tell me what's going on. And the New York Times came up, and they wrote a vicious story about me talking so badly about Brussels, and then you had this horrible attack, and now everybody's saying he was right. I know what I'm doing. I mean, I know what I'm doing.
And I'll bring Melania back in here because she wants you to be more presidential. We know every election cycle what the Democratic playbook is going to be. It's going to be that if you're the nominee, you're racist, you're sexist, war on women, you want dirty air and water and throw Granny over the cliff. So the question is, first of all, do you have a nickname for Hillary?
Well, you know, I haven't really. I just haven't wanted to give it yet. I sort of do, but I want to knock off the next two people, and then I can focus.
And then you'll
Hillary.
reveal it.
Oh, it's going to be great. But I will say this, and I think a lot of people will confirm it. Nobody has more respect for women than I do. That I can tell you. Nobody.
Melania, when you read these polls or you see how they're trying to position your husband, that he's anti-woman, and they use different narratives, what are your thoughts? What would you want to say to people as somebody that obviously knows him better than anybody?
I think he's the man. He respects women. He hires the women on the highest positions, and he trusts them. And he's the one that he will take care of them. He's the only one.
Let me go back to Hillary. You obviously broke a lot of eggs, to use your analogy, in the Republican primary. And if she's the nominee, assuming she's not wearing an orange jumpsuit and shoes without laces, how do you have to maybe navigate a little differently because she's going to play that gender card?
Well, it seems unfair to have to do so. Probably there will be some of that. It seems unfair. She's playing that card very heavily. Now, she played the card 2 months ago, and the only time I really hit her was 2 months ago, and Bernie got all the credit because she went down, and all of a sudden he started doing well. You know, when I did that 2 months ago, she went way down. I think I'm going to have to take a little credit for what's happening with Bernie because he's won, what, the last 6 in a row. And I'll tell you, Wisconsin's going to be very interesting. I understand he's leading in Wisconsin. It's going to be an interesting. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I can't say, but I look at what's happening. You take a look at Libya. That was her baby. And a friend of mine who's very well versed in what's going on, Libya had great oil, very, very pure, very beautiful oil. You know who's got that oil now? ISIS. ISIS has that oil. They've taken that oil. So you had Benghazi, you had the ambassador and the others, wonderful people being absolutely and brutally killed. Nobody talks about the viciousness of those killings. They were vicious. And remember the famous phone call when you get the phone? Well, she wasn't there to answer the call. I mean, she wasn't there. So without giving away, do you have your strategy? I do. I have a strategy, but I don't
already in place.
It's too early. I don't even know if she's going to be the nominee yet. It's too early to
I have 1,000 pages of research on her. I haven't. Remember, I was the one out there on Obama warning the country that he was a radical, you know, Reverend Wright, 20 years in that church, GD America, Alinskyite, Acorn, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dohrn. No one wanted to talk about it.
It says better than anything when he won't use the term radical Islamic terrorism. And you saw what happened yesterday with the French and where he had the words.
They edited it out.
It had to happen. He said it was a technical mistake. This is what I mean. Those 2 words or 3 words were edited out. It was a technical mistake. To think, I mean.
Scary.
No, well, it's a lie. It's purely a lie.
We got to take a break. More with Donald Trump, the Republican frontrunner, and Melania. Right after this break, as Hannity continues from the Pabst Theater, we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Stay with us. continue now with 2016 Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, his wife Melania. Jordan, first-time caller, long-time listener. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Do you have a question for Mr. Trump?
Yes. Mr. Trump, if you were the current president of the United States, who would you nominate to the Supreme Court and why?
Okay, well, we just lost a great one, and who would have thought this could have happened? And I think it's one of the probably, maybe, well, look, defense is always most important, but one of the most important things going on right now is who the justice is going to be, because it could be as many, could actually be as many as 5. So it's going to change. I would go with a very conservative person. I would go pro-life. I would go with great intellect and somebody that would be like Scalia, worthy of tremendous admiration and respect. So important.
Thank you, Jordan. Melania, you've watched a lot of interviews with him. Is there one question that you wish that maybe somebody had asked your husband and they haven't asked yet?
I think they did ask him many questions, yes. It doesn't come in.
When you sit at home and you're watching these interviews or watching people attacking him, that's not easy on any family, right?
Well, we know what comes with territory, you know, when you go into that, and you know what's coming up, and we have a thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, I'm explaining to my 10-year-old son, and he understands too. He needs to get thick skin. You know, it's life.
Does it impact?
Life is not a bowl of cherries. So.
It's not cotton candy and rainbows. That's my line. Real quick, we have about a minute.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Ashley Cross, and my question is, with Russia and the USA having a common enemy with ISIS, would you reach out to Russia to make them an ally?
I think it's fine. You know, I took heat from these people that don't get it. When Russia started bombing ISIS, then they said, we should be doing that. You know, these Lindsey Grahams are these characters that don't know what they're doing. They've been fighting. You know, he said, I've been doing this for many years. That's why we keep fighting. We should knock them out quickly. But that's why we're losing, exactly. Yeah. Said very well. The fact is, we have to knock ISIS out so fast. And if Russia, you know, Putin has said very nice things about me. So people said, actually during one of the debates, one of the people said, you should tell him to take that away. I said, I'm not going to take it away. Called me a genius, actually, so I was very nice. But you know what? You know what? If Russia wants to help us, if Russia wants to drop bombs all the hell over ISIS who are cutting people's heads off and drowning people, that's okay with me.
When we come back, we'll continue. More from Milwaukee, Wisconsin with Donald Trump and Melania Trump. Straight ahead. All right, unfortunately, that's all the time we have left this evening, but be sure to tune in tomorrow night, 10 Eastern. Now, the polls close here, 9 Eastern, and we will have full coverage, our regular time, 10 Eastern. Did you all have a good time tonight? I want to thank you, Mr. Trump. It's great to see you. Melania, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it. That is all the time we have. Tomorrow night, at regular time, we'll have Wisconsin primary results for all of you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow night.